City Manager's oral report regarding events stemming from the death of George Floyd and the city's response to local incidents, including but not limited to activation of the EOC, the countywide curfew, protests, and next steps.
Thank you. And City Manager, when you're ready, we're listening.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is really a solemn report to reflect on the activities that have transpired over the past couple of weeks. These are events that have stemmed from the death of George Floyd, who died at the hands of Minneapolis police on Monday, May 25th, essentially just 2 weeks ago. From this heinous death, protests and demonstrations have erupted across all 50 states and around the world, actually, in support of Black Lives Matter and in the condemnation of racial injustices. So these events have really impacted all parts of the U.S. and even locally, starting with the police chief posting a message condemning the actions that led to the death of George Floyd on May 30th. This was really framed, though, in quite a bit of chaos that erupted out of the mass demonstrations. But these mass demonstrations, while there was some civil unrest, also provided cover for widespread looting. And on Sunday, last week, on May 31st, we were observing this type of activity kind of moving down the I-880 corridor and seeing how it was impacting nearby cities. So city staff quickly responded, police primarily and public works. We brought in additional staff members last weekend to close down essentially Union Landing and to place staff members, police members in other commercial centers, since these were really the targets of vandalism and looting. We believe that we were able to disrupt this activity and preserve much of Union Landing, which I think was the primary target. But we did have damage, broken windows, vandalism, and looting of about 4 stores. And we actually had a store over in the Safeway Shopping Center also have some damage. So out of this activity, we did open up and activate our EOC because we were needing to bring in additional staff, not only additional public works crews, but also many more police officers to help patrol the streets and really make sure that there was calm within Union City. And I also want to give a call out to Alameda County Fire Department, who also assisted during that time. On Monday, the county established a curfew really in response to all the activities that had happened over the weekend. And that was to be rescinded on May 5th. Ultimately, the county did rescind that a day earlier on May 4th because there was quiet throughout the region. But the city continued with posting of a mayor's message, community message, with a commitment to dismantle racism and to have the city really focus on these issues. On June 4th, on Thursday, we held a town hall, and that included the mayor, Pastor Brown from the Pastors Alliance, Chief Renetti, and Adrian Valdez from our Youth and Family Services organization. On Friday and throughout the weekend, we did have 3 protests. Starting on Friday, we had the Black Cowboys Horse March down Dakota Road into Niles. That included about 40 horses and other supporters. On Sunday, June 7th, we had a prayer caravan, a prayer protest sponsored by Inspire Church that essentially wove its way through the city, ultimately ending at the BART station. And on Sunday, June 7th, we also had a Black Lives Matter protest that started at Kennedy Park and walked to City Hall, where it concluded with remarks and speakers. Over the course of the weekend, the mayor also signed, and perhaps this was actually late last week, signed up for support of President Obama's commitment to action to address police use of force policies. This was something that was pushed out nationwide to all cities, requesting mayors to commit to these 8 standards. So where do we go from here? Well, to start off, I'm bringing this item forward to the council for discussion. It's an oral report, rather unusual, but there just wasn't any time to put together a written report on this item. Status of Union Landing on Monday, yesterday, it was returned to normal. All barricades and barriers were removed. Everything is working fine out there now. The city has or will be creating essentially a web page or a web platform where we will be able to post responses to all of the town hall questions that we received, somewhere between 30 and 50 questions, depending upon if they're grouped by subject matter, but very detailed questions that are going to take some time to provide thoughtful responses. It'll also be a place where we can post community messages, the mayor's message, the Chief Renetti's message, and other information that develops over the next coming days and weeks related to the George Floyd events and what comes out of this. On Thursday, Chief Renetti will be meeting with the faith-based leaders in Union City, and at the next City Council meeting, we will be bringing back an evaluation of how Union City's police department addresses or incorporates the commit to action policies that were put out by President Obama. And it's oftentimes also called the 8 can't wait demands. So we will be evaluating that and bringing it back to the City Council for their consideration and information to the public so the public can also understand where we stand. We're always interested in moving forward best practices, and so we'll be looking very carefully at that. The City Council may want to consider a resolution affirming the city's commitments, and so that's something the council may want to consider over the next many days and perhaps the next few weeks. And I would also recommend that the City Council establish a subcommittee of council members and HRC members to begin to put together a community engagement plan so that we might begin to be more thoughtful of how we can respond to all of the actions, activities, and issues that have been raised over the last 2 weeks. So that concludes my staff report, and I would very much appreciate getting comments and direction from the council.
Thank you very much, Joan. Before I get to the other council members' thoughts, what I would like to do is let them know that, in essence, President Obama's pledge, it was actually a mayor's pledge, and I actually signed it last Thursday morning before we did the town hall. But what it commits to through the mayoral pledge is the My Brother's Keepers Alliance calling on the mayors to commit to the following actions, which is number 1, review our police use of force policies, and that's coming to the council at the next meeting. Then 2, to engage the communities by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories. And we'll be doing that on the recommendation of the subcommittee council, HRC. And then the third item is to report the findings of the community engagement back. And then, of course, based on that, reform any police use of policies that we think need reform after we've heard the feedback, and of course, compared to the policies that we currently have. So that being said, I'll go ahead and see which council members might like to comment on this item. So Vice Mayor Duncan, how about we start with you, just because you're the first one I saw on my screen here.
Well, I think it's a good plan. I, along with you, Mayor, we attended both of these rallies or protests over the weekend, the Inspire car caravan, and of course the protest at City Hall, which had, I think, over 500 people there, most of whom were young. They were passionate, they were concerned, and some were angry. And I think this opportunity for engagement will give us, the City Council, to hear from the community, to understand what the issues are. Because as I stood there and listened to this protest, of course, it started out with concerned about the police, but at the end of the day, there were lots of concerns. There were concerns about affordable housing. There were concerns about homelessness. There were concerns about racism. And I think that this issue has just raised so many concerns in the community that have built up over many years, that this was kind of like the tipping point for it. And I think as a community, we need to create a space and a way to hear from the community members, particularly the young people who were there, I think, in the largest numbers over the weekend, and create a place to talk about it, and as a council, be open and willing to embrace the recommendations and see how we might incorporate them into our policies and our structure going forward, so that it doesn't become just words, but we can turn it into meaningful actions. You know, we've said many things about how we want to be a compassionate city. We mean those things. We say those things, but there's a disconnect with our community, and we've got to create a place and a way to hear from the community what they think we're missing and how we can embrace and incorporate that. So I think this is a good plan.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And looking the way my screen is here, Councilmember Gakoskos, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Vice Mayor that, and also the recommendation of the city manager to form a subcommittee composed of the Human Relations Commission and 2 members of the City Council. Just want to say that we're still fortunate in Union City that people are appreciative of our police department, unlike if you compare it to other cities that are having problems right now. I still say that they love our police department, our police officers. And based on my conversation and also comments from social media and people that I talked to, they, especially in the last incident that, our police officers led by the chief acted right away in securing the Union Landing when looters planned to just steal and damage the place. So that's just one thing that one example of their appreciation to our police. But I know there are problems still, and we have and watching the TV and receiving the communication or emails from people asking for a reform of our police department. We will be listening to them and then make our recommendation later. So that's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Pat, for that. I appreciate that. And going across my pictures here, Councilmember Singh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is long overdue. Killing George Floyd caused civil unrest as a result. Many citizens have rightfully taken this matter into their own hands. I believe that it is a time that everyone should learn about the racism and should not be silent about it. During this process of change, many businesses in Alameda County have been violated by the looters. I personally have been speaking to small business around our area, thankfully, we have been able to protect the businesses with the help of our police department, and our city manager did a great job last 2 weeks to protect our city. Um, Otherwise, we would be in a very bad shape. Um, we all experienced the racism one time or the other. I can relate to many stories since I wear turban. I just give you a simple example. I was at the Kaiser Clinic over here in Union City, on Whipple and Union City, and I went there early morning to do the blood draw. And there was about 7 people in front of me, and I was the 7th one. And when I got to the window, she wasn't asking anybody to pull the driver's license. When I got there, she asked me the driver's license. And I asked her, hey, you're not asking anybody a driver's license. Why me? She said, well, it's required. I handed it to her anyhow. But then I complained to the higher authority, and now they put the sign there on the reception, close to the receptionist. So those things happen everywhere and every day, and I have no doubt. And it's about time. We need to take it to the next level. It's much needed right now. I appreciate everybody doing what they can to solve this issue. This is the biggest issue I see in the country, and it's been escalated the last 4 years, really up to the highest. And it never been that bad. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Singh. And Councilmember Patino.
Yes, thank you for the report, City Manager. Yes, I'd like to commend PD, Public Works, and Alameda County Fire for reacting quickly on Sunday night of last week. The looting at Union Landing could have been worse had they not all worked together. And it was a collaborative effort. It really made me proud to see all the different departments working together to get this done. Could have been so much worse. Even our public works people were getting projectiles thrown at them. There was a couple of businesses that were also looted over by Safeway over here by Decoto and Alvarado Niles. But I do want to point out that all the different departments worked together, especially when we needed to lock down City Hall. And I did attend the cowboy rally. It was nice to see the horses out there going down Dakota Road the other day. Only in Union City can you see that around here. And I was proud to say that, to see that. And also, I was at the rally. Councilmember Singh and myself were at the rally on Sunday. I saw a lot of familiar faces out there. Even my nephew was in the crowd. It was very peaceful. But they're frustrated. And we should have this discussion. As much as I like the department we have now, we didn't always have a very good police department. We were known for not having a very good police department. And I remember about 22 years ago, March of 22 years ago, one of our residents right there on 12th Street was killed, shot in the back by one of our officers 6 times. And I was out there marching, asking for more police accountability and civilian review board. And I am happy to say that we do not have that police force anymore. And what really made things wrong back then was that officer that killed Sheila Amaya was voted Officer of the Year right after. And it just insult to injury. There was no respect for the feelings of the community at the time. We're not getting that now because we have a better police department, a better command staff, a more responsive city than we did back then. And so we've come a long way, but there's still more to do. And I'm looking forward to engaging in that conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's comments on this item. And what I would like to say on this is these last 2 weeks, I know through my conversations with the police chief, has been a tremendous strain on our officers in Union City. We, as you just pointed out, Councilmember Patino and other council members, we have excellent police officers in this city. However, all of the good officers are being painted with the stroke of a brush for bad officers in other parts of the country. I don't know if it's just because it's California, but I can't talk about the rest of California. I only know what I know in Union City. And that's why after on Wednesday, started getting the 8 can't wait emails, I forwarded it to the police chief and said, how do we rate? They're saying we only are doing 3 of these 8 things. So he reviewed it and he said, all of the 8 policies they're asking for are already consistent with what we have. So our officers are facing stress when they're coming to work every day, and folks are looking at them as the bad guy, if you will, as opposed to the good officers that they are. Can they do better? Yes, I'm sure they could in certain areas, but hey, I can do better as a mayor. You folks can do better as council members. That's the way it is. Everybody could do a little bit better on their job. This process is certainly going to get the community engagement that we need because people do feel like they haven't been heard. And as happened in 1998, and that officer involved shooting, there was public engagement. As a matter of fact, Councilmember Gakoskas was the chair of the Human Relations Commission at the time, so she was tasked with the community engagement surrounding a police review board. And again, with public engagement, Councilmember Duncan was chair of the Human Relations Commission in 2008 after one of our youth was murdered by another youth, and community engagement was again needed, and that community engagement led to the creation of our youth and family services programs. So we do have 2 council members that have been human relations chairs that have engaged in community relations. And the reason we have a great police department like we do today is because of that incident 22 years ago, and everything that's ensued since then. So I know it's been hard on the police officers. So certainly as we go forward together, this is going to be a process that I'm very excited about, to let the community know we do want to listen, we do care, and we want to come out on the other end with a more caring community and feeling like they can be heard when they have issues. So in any case, that being said, what I would like to do towards staff's recommendation is for our council subcommittee, appoint Vice Mayor Duncan and Council Member Gakoskas to be the council side of the subcommittee, and then we shall leave it to the HRC to do their appointments, and we shall take it from there. So, and again, I mentioned Councilmember Duncan and Vice Mayor Duncan and Councilmember Gakoskas role in the community engagement on their terms of the HRC. So I think they've already got a solid footing on what the process should look like when we come to the community engagement and help guide the HRC as they work together to move this process forward. Okay, so that being said, if anybody else has any comments, I'll entertain those now. Otherwise, we would need a motion on that recommendation.
Madam Mayor, we have 2 members of the public that would like to comment. I'll first promote Melissa Schwinn-Mallory and then followed by David Watley.
Perfect. Thank you, Kyle, for reminding me about the public. I keep forgetting. So yes, Melissa, are you there? I know it takes a second, as Kyle reminded us, to come on. And while Melissa's coming on, I'll let the audience know that Melissa is the chair of our Human Relations Commission.
Hello, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you wonderfully.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Mayor and City Council and staff for having me. And I just want to commend, Public Works, the staff, the fire department, and the police officers for their responses to the looting that was happening in Union Landing, it's definitely not. It definitely does not, help the intentions of the protesters that people are using this as a reason to loot. So, and I also want to thank the Union City Police Department for taking a more hands-off approach to the rallies over the weekend. I have attended a lot of rallies where police have been very prevalent, and I was very happy to see that the rallies over the weekend in Union City were allowed to proceed peacefully without a lot of police presence, which can make some of the people that were there uncomfortable. So I really appreciate that. And I also commend the town hall that happened over the week. I think it was done very well. Of course, there was a very limited amount of time, and I found myself wanting to hear more from the community. And so I really do support this idea of putting together a subcommittee between the Human Relations Commission and the City Council so that we can get more feedback from our community about how we can reimagine what policing looks like in the city. And so I would really support that idea. I would really like to see a much longer town hall with with a lot more people from the community speaking. I think that how people experience the policing in Union City really varies depending on neighborhood. And so I know that the police department has come a long way, and the city has made a lot of changes, and it's much better than it used to be. But I think that there is always, as you said, room for improvement. And I've heard some feedback from my own neighbors here in Dakota, that I think is very valid and that we should discuss. So I look forward to having this subcommittee formed, and so we can get more feedback from the community.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate that. And I am sure, I guess that will be up to Lauren to get the ball rolling there with schedules and timeline to get that moving. So look forward to that. And David Watley, I understand you're out there somewhere. You must be pressing some more buttons, David.
He should be popping over shortly.
Sounds good, Kyle. Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, David, there you are. Here we are.
I think I'm getting better at this.
Practice makes perfect.
There you go. So listen, I'm really glad that this is on the agenda, and I'm actually directing my comments directly to Joan, our city manager, and anyone else in the city manager's office whom they apply to. I think that, I returned to the city of Union City at the fall of 2017. My brother actually had tried to commit suicide, and he was hospitalized. It was a very horrible experience for our family. I was actually out of the country when it happened, and I flew back to my mom's house, and it was a time of great distress for our family. I feel that every single policy issue that I have communicated to the city manager's office can be connected back to this issue stemming from George Floyd. We have, it's not just African Americans who are mistreated in our country, it's also Latinos, right? If we take, I've sent statistics of what the prison population is, the state prison of California. By far, it's filled with African Americans and Latinos disproportionately. So I have communicated to the city manager's office, and actually, I think the city attorney's office has been looped in on quite a few things as well. on policy issues pertaining to education in our Title I schools, on policy issues pertaining to public housing, on policy issues pertaining to public health. And, you know, from where I sit, nothing really has been done. And we're going on 3 years now, right? So I think it's great to have committees and forums and task force or whatever you want to do and have conversations. But at the end of the day, if you're not getting anything done and changing the policy and making improvements, then it's just a bunch of rhetoric. And it's not fair. You know, those 2 boys that were killed at Cyril's, I had asked Tony Acosta a year before, hey, Tony, why don't we have a meeting about civil rights issues with Title I schools? And, you know, because, you know, a lot of youngsters in the community aren't doing so well. Never got a meeting. So I just don't understand why you say one thing, but then when there's actually a resident, and everyone on that dais knows my family's lived in Union City for 60 years. You just don't, you respond with, and that's not everybody, but there's some staff members that just do not care, and they've responded with disrespect, with very mean-spirited. I just don't understand why we have these folks on our staff. To me, they would make a better fit for corporate, like IBM or something like that, but not in a public sector. So I think that talk is one thing, but implementing the policy changes that our community needs is another. The city of Hayward.
The 3-minute timer is now up.
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle. So David, we hear you loud and clear. You want action, not just talk, and that is what the intent of all of this is, to follow the process of reviewing, engaging the public, getting back to the council, and making change based on what we hear. So that being said, we've heard the speakers. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion on this item?
Madam Mayor, we have one additional speaker from the public.
Oh,
that is
okay.
Kata Hoi, and they should be promoted here shortly.
Very good. Kata, we shall wait for you to be promoted here.
Are you there, Kata?
My name is Katie.
Katie?
Oh, Katie. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you, Katie.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what the previous speaker was talking about. I think that it's not accurate to have the opinion, like have one or a couple council members speak on behalf of the entire community regarding like our relationship with cops and the police department. I think that in order to get a good sense of how we are interacting with our community, we should go to communities that are at risk and consider their opinion, and not, people who already have a voice in the community. I don't think many people actually even know about these council meetings. So I think there needs to be something that's more available and that can actually reach communities at risk and communities of color within Union City, and that meets like how diverse Union City actually is, because it's not actually reflected in this council. I'd also like to remind the council members that the 8 Can't Wait campaign includes defunding the police. That's one of the that's part of the platform, and I don't want that to get lost in the policies, because the person who created 8 Can't Wait said that it's very easy for community leaders to enact these policies but not enforce it. And so I'd really like to see some action on how these would be enforced, and like how we'd actually put our money where our mouth is and put our money back into the community and back into the communities that need the funding. And although it seems like the council has a very good relationship with the police department, I think that as a community, as a small community, it's our duty to like create some change, and if that means defunding the police and putting it back into the community, and I think it's not completely defunding the police. It's just to, you know, like, are my 3 minutes up?
No, keep on going. Kyle will let us know.
Oh, I can see my time. But
okay.
I can follow up with an email.
Okay, that's certainly
3
welcome.
minutes are actually up right now.
Oh, they are? Okay. So thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and please do follow up with an email because I hear what you're saying, and I've been reading articles on defunding the police department, and I do understand that it doesn't mean to have the police department go away. What it means is asking for more social services, the mental health, the housing. There's so many things that go into it to in essence, have the job of mental health counselors taken away from police officers. I think that makes perfect sense. That's what these meetings are about in terms of the engagement with the Human Relations Commission and the City Council Subcommittee to come with the plan, move forward into the communities that you're referring to, the ones that aren't normally engaged with the City Council, so that we can hear. That's our job, to listen and learn, and then bring it back and create change. That's what this is all about. This is not just about lip service. As Governor Newsom had said in a meeting, this is about real solutions. It's just not about a situational solution to have this moment in time go away. So, okay, Kyle, have any other speakers sprung up?
Madam Mayor, at this time, no.
Okay, perfect. So that being the case, there's nobody else that would like to speak on this item. So, Police Chief Renetti, yes, sir, I see your hand.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and members of City Council, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say that on behalf of the police department, we truly do love this community. We love all those we serve. We are public servants first, and we welcome the dialogue. We want to learn as much as we can from our community. We want to share with our community as much as we can in regards to our policy, procedures, why we do what we do. And we do hope we can find ways to better serve the community. All the men and women I've known that have gotten into this profession, that's the whole sole reason for doing it, is to serve others. Our motto, our priority is service from the heart. We can go to calls, we could collect the facts and write a police report, but that's not service from the heart. Having care, compassion, and empathy is what we're about as an organization, and I truly hope the dialogue we share with our community helps us find ways to do a better job at that. So I just wanted to share it with all the council and those listening, because it truly is our intent to do the best job we can, and we hope that these next few steps will help us get to that point.
Thank you so much, Chief. Okay, now I'll entertain a motion if we're done with comments.
I'll make the motion.
So in the motion of, go right ahead, Council Member.
To adopt a resolution to perform the subcommittee with the HR commissions and the City Council, Vice Mayor Duncan and Council Member Pat Kukauskas.
Thank you so much. And is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. There's been a motion made by Councilmember Singh and seconded by Councilmember Patino. So on a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gakoskas? Councilmember
Pat, you have to
Gakoskas?
unmute yourself, Pat.
I think, oh, okay. It's
There you are.
I, and I'm happy to serve.
Councilmember Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Singh?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Duncan?
Aye.
Mayor Dutra-Bonacci?
Aye, that passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much. And Joan, I guess you and Lauren will put your heads together for the next steps to get the subcommittee rolling. So looking forward to that. And do you have a time frame on that, Joan, so we have a better idea of what to expect?
I think Lauren will convene the HRC at their earliest convenience, and I'd also like to suggest that we have perhaps a police officer that might participate in the group as well. But we can work out those details with the city council members and the HRC very soon, as soon as possible.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.